Financial Reporting Through the Lens of a Property Casualty Actuary. Chapter 19, Part 7, the RBC Charge for Written Premium Risk, R5. The R5 charge considers underwriting risk associated with the following. 1. Net written premium, or written premium RBC. 2. Excessive premium growth. 3. Health premium, the health premium RBC. 4. Health stabilization. For a typical company, almost all of the R5 charge will come from the written premium RBC component. The following provides a brief discussion of each of the first two categories of the R5 risk charge. As previously noted in the discussion on R4, we will not go into details for health insurance categories because the charges for health premium RBC and health stabilization are generally immaterial to the property casualty industry. Written premium RBC. Written premium risk contemplates the risk that future business written by the company will be unprofitable. Ideally, the charge for this risk should be based on business written in the following year, but since that is an unknown quantity, business written during the current year is used as a proxy. Similar to the reserve RBC, the written premium RBC is computed by applying a set of factors, varying by line of business, to the net of reinsurance premiums written by the company during the current year. The calculation is done on the same lines of business as the reserve RBC, with a different set of factors used in the calculation. As with the reserve RBC, once the calculation of the base net written premium RBC is calculated for each line of business, two reductions are made, one for loss-sensitive business and the other for premium concentration, as opposed to loss concentration in R4. Premium concentration reflects diversification in writing business across different lines of business. Because the mechanics generally follow those used in the reserve RBC charge, we will only discuss differences in the calculation for written premium RBC. Base net written premium RBC by line of business. The base net written premium RBC by line of business is computed as follows. Equation 4. Base net written premium RBC equals the net written premium for the current calendar year multiplied by the company RBC loss and LAE ratio times adjustment for investment income plus underwriting expense ratio minus 1. The net written premiums for each line of business are provided in column 6 of Part 1B of the U&IE within the annual statement. Aggregate write-ins for other lines of business are included within the other liability line of business. Company RBC loss and LAE ratio. Similar to how the company RBC percentage is the key driver in the reserve RBC calculation, the company RBC loss and LAE ratio forms the crux of the written premium risk charge. For each line of business, the company RBC loss and LAE ratio is determined based on a 50% weighting applied to the straight industry RBC loss and LAE ratio and 50% applied to the industry RBC loss and LAE ratio adjusted for the company's own experience. The industry RBC loss and LAE ratio is given by the NAIC and is the same for all property casualty insurance companies. As with the industry reserve RBC percent, the industry RBC loss and LAE ratios did not change from their original value until 2008, when the NAIC adopted changes that were recommended by the American Academy of Actuaries P&C Risk-Based Capital Committee. The original industry RBC loss and LAE ratios were based on the worst-case accident year ratio by line of business that resulted from taking a simple average over all companies. Company loss and LAE ratios by accident year were taken from what is currently column 31 of Schedule P, Part 1. The revised methodology recommended by the committee instead uses the 87.5th percentile of all data points. Consistent with the industry reserve RBC percent factor, a floor was set such that the indicated industry RBC loss and LAE ratio resulted in a minimum charge of 5% after adjustment for investment income. In addition, the indicated RBC loss and LAE ratios were capped to limit the change in the base loss and LAE reserve RBC. The data was also filtered and screened to remove anomalous values, e.g., companies having less than an average of $500,000 in earned premium or a loss ratio of 0% for any 1 year. Further, loss ratios were capped at 300%. As discussed in the Reserve RBC section above, the 2017 RBC formula saw another update to the industry RBC loss and LAE ratio factors, the first since 2010. This update was based on changes recommended by the American Academy of Actuaries P&C Risk-Based Capital Committee in a report titled 2016 Update to Property and Casualty Risk-Based Capital Underwriting Factors. The recommendations from this study are the same for written premium RBC as those discussed above for reserve RBC. As with the industry RBC reserve factors, the NAIC adopted the industry RBC loss and LAE ratio factors capped at 10% in the 2017 formula, with further revisions to the 2019 formula to use the factors capped at 35% for all lines of business other than personal and reinsurance lines, which are uncapped. The reporting entity's own experience is considered by adjusting the industry loss and LAE ratios by the ratio of the company average loss and LAE ratio to the industry average loss and LAE ratio. The company average loss and LAE ratio is a straight average over the past 10 accident years of the net loss and LAE ratios provided in Schedule P, Part 1, Column 31. Loss and LAE ratios for any accident year in excess of 300% are capped at that value in consideration of anomalous one-time results. Note that the reporting entity may not rely on its own experience in determining the company RBC loss and LAE ratio if 1. The loss and LAE ratio for any accident year is 0 or negative. 2. The net earned premium for any accident year is 0 or negative. 3. More than 2 years' net earned premiums are less than 20% of the average over all years for each line. Otherwise, the company must exclude the 1 or 2 specific years that fail and take a straight average from the remaining years. Adjustment for investment income. The investment income factors are provided by the NAIC and calculated using the same assumptions as in the reserve RBC, with the exception that discounted years differ because written premium is discounted as opposed to reserves. Underwriting expense ratio. This is the company's own underwriting expense ratio for the current year, capped at 400%, with a floor of 0. It is equal to the ratio of other underwriting expenses incurred in the current year per line 4 of the income statement, divided by total net written premium for the current year from Part 1B, Column 6 of the U&IE. The underwriting expense ratio equals other underwriting expenses divided by net written premium. Adjustment for loss-sensitive business. Prior to summing the written premium RBC over all lines of business written by the reporting company, an adjustment is made to reflect loss-sensitive business. The following provides the application of the loss-sensitive adjustment. Equation 5, net written premium RBC after discount equals Equation 4 minus the loss-sensitive discount. The base net written premium RBC minus the loss-sensitive discount. Similar to the reserve RBC, a 30% discount is applied to the portion of the net written premium RBC charge that is attributed to direct loss-sensitive contracts, and a 15% discount is applied to the base net written premium RBC charge for assumed contracts. The portion of net written premium attributed to direct and assumed loss-sensitive contracts is found in Column 6 of Schedule P, Parts 7A and 7B, respectively. Adjustment for premium concentration. The final written premium RBC charge is computed as follows. Equation 6. Net written premium RBC charge equals Equation 5 times the premium concentration factor, which is equal to the total net written premium RBC after discount times the premium concentration factor. The premium concentration factor is determined by taking the percentage of total net written premiums that the largest line of business represents, multiplying this percentage by 0.3, and then adding the result to 0.7. As with the loss concentration factor, a monoline rider would not receive any discount, as the calculation would be 1 times 0.3 plus 0.7, which produces a premium concentration factor of 1. However, a company writing 60% of its business in its largest line would receive a discount to its net written premium RBC charge of 12%, or a premium concentration factor of 0.88, which is equal to 0.6 times 0.3 plus 0.7. Illustration of written premium RBC calculation. Table 91 shows the written premium RBC calculation for REIC used in our illustration of reserve RBC. The source of the company's net written premium data is Part 1B of the U&IE, which is provided in US dollars. As displayed in Table 91, the written premium RBC that is included in the R5 charge for REIC is 3,790,109. The company average loss and LAE ratio for the past 10 years, line 2, is better than the industry average loss and LAE ratio, line 1, for the personal lines, HOFO and PPAL, and worse for the commercial lines, WC and OL. Thus, the company loss and LAE ratio in line 9 is lower than the industry ratio in line 3 for the personal lines and higher for the commercial lines. In fact, the ratio is substantially higher for OL, other liability, given the poor average loss ratio over the past 10 years, which is causing a higher overall written premium RBC for OL than the other 3 lines of business, despite the fact that the premium writings are the lowest for OL. Table 92 provides another example of the R5 calculation for CAL for fictitious. Excessive premium growth. The RBC average growth rate factor is calculated the same as that for reserve risk. However, the factor differs in its application. In the case of R5, the excessive premium growth charge is applied to net written premium rather than reserves, and multiplied by 0.225 rather than 0.45. The net written premium is obtained from the total line in Part 1B, Column 6 of the U&IE. The factor of 0.225 was determined by Kaufman based on a study of the loss ratio for companies experiencing growth in excess of 10% versus all companies in the industry. As with the 0.45 factor, the factor applied to net written premium of 0.225 has been adjusted for discounting by 0.9. R5 for fictitious. Table 93 provides the R5 portion of the calculation for fictitious.